What is up, YouTube? JankyYGO here. My name is Michael, and today we have more Gem Knight support coming in Power of the Elements. Gem Knights are getting even more support than they have in the past. So, without further ado, let's just jump into what the new cards do. So, first up is Gem Knight Quartz. It is a level 4 Earth Fairy effect monster with 1500 attack, 1500 defense. First, second effects are hard once returned. If your opponent controls a monster, you can discard this card to set one fusion continuous spell directly from your deck. You cannot special summon monsters from the extra deck for the rest of the turn except Gem Knight monsters. If this card is used as a fusion material and sent to the graveyard or banished, you can add one Gem Knight monster from your graveyard to your hand except for itself. So, let's talk about the effects. The first effect is alright. The first effect would be really good though if Brilliant Fusion wasn't banned, but Brilliant Fusion is banned, so we gotta hope that there's a new fusion continuous spell. But if there's not, then that first effect is useless for us over here in the TCG when this card inevitably comes out. The second effect is very good and is like the perfect thing for Gem Knights, because Gem Knights, their whole thing, if you're not doing the FTK build, is to constantly fuse your materials over and over again. So while Obsidian and Lapis, I think, are the ones that get them back from the graveyard to the hand, are not hardwood ones per turns, and this is still good enough to see play in that deck. So very cool. We're going to move on to Brilliant Rose. So Brilliant Rose is always treated as a Gem Knight card, and it's a level 2 light effect monster. It has 500 attack and 500 defense, and the first effect is a hard one's return. You can discard one Gem Knight or Meliodas card, special summon this card from your hand. Once per turn, you can send one Gem Knight or Melodious monster from your extra deck to your graveyard, and this card's name, type, and attribute become the sent original name, type, and attribute until the end of the turn. So that's pretty cool. This allows you to fusion summon up and get around having to fusion summon twice. So I think that's a pretty cool card. As far as do Gem Knights need this card, I don't know. I think that the other one is probably better, the other Rose, but maybe that's just my opinion. But we're going to move to the first fusion. Gem Knight Lady Rose Diamond. So, it's an Earth Fairy fusion effect. Level 8, 2700 attack, 2400 defense. It's Gem Knight monster and one Fairy monster. First time a Gem Knight monster or monsters you control would be destroyed by a card effect during each of the opponent's turn. It is not. The opponent activates a monster effect during your turn. Quick effect, you can banish one Gem Knight card from your graveyard, then target one face-up card your opponent controls and destroy it. So let's talk about this card. I think that the first effect is very good as it protects your board and all that. The second effect I honestly don't think is quite as good. It's still a good thing because it's definitely meant to go second. I'll just say that. But it's definitely not as good as something like a negate. I think a negate would be like a better and everything, obviously. So that it'll make it harder for them to interrupt your plays. But I think if it was a negate, the issue would become of the FTK or an FTK with Gem Knight. The Gem Knight FTK would be a lot more consistent and wouldn't lose to hand traps as hard. So I understand why they went with that. Also, I wish it didn't have to be during your turn. If it was just, if a monster effect is activated, quick effect, you banish pop, I think that would be much better. But also, it is a win effect. It can miss timing. That is also an issue. So, yeah. This card, first effect I think is fine. The second effect I kind of have a little bit of issues with, because it could have been so much better. But we're going to move on to a continuous spell. Woo! Which is our last card we're going to talk about, Scatter Fusion. Continuous spell, first effect is a hard one per turn. If your opponent controls a monster, you can fusion summon one non-rock Gem Knight monster or fusion monster from your extra deck using monsters from your deck as fusion material. You cannot special summon monsters from the extra deck for the rest of the turn except Gym Knights, and when this card leaves the field, destroy that monster or monsters. So, let's compare this to Brilliant Fusion, since that's the best comparison. I think that this card is definitely a fixed version of Brilliant Fusion. This locks you into Gem Knight monsters so that no other decks can use it. That was the issue with Brilliant Fusion, is that other decks could use and abuse it. Otherwise, this card is pretty good specifically just for Gem Knights, even if it also makes it so that you can't set up a bunch of negates and stuff like that, because it requires your opponent to have a monster. So, this is definitely for the Gem Knight OTK, not the FTK. So the Gem Knight OTK is you summon a bunch of fusion monsters and you just attack. And this one is, this card is definitely more suited for that. So that's kind of cool. I think that overall the new support is good for Gem Knights. It's definitely not gonna put them up a tier or anything like that, as most of the support, most of the more meta version of Gem Knights are Gem Knight FTK, and this doesn't help with that, since you can't FTK with these cards, since most of these require your opponent to have a monster. So that's an issue. Alternatively, if you could find a way to give your opponent a monster, you can go off with these and FTK anyway. So that's cool. But that's going to do it for this video. If it is your birthday today, happy birthday. And if you want to send me any cool deck profiles or replays, my email is in the description, JankyYGO@gmail.com. And of course, and as always, have a wonderful day.